Welcome back to week 3 of this nutritional program with me, Coach Chickenlegs. Get excited. Okay team, so now we should know how much water we're having each day. We should also know how many steps we're getting each day. And you should also have a better understanding of how much food you feel like you need to have each week. You might find that that challenge that you did was quite difficult. You might have found that you had to eat a lot more than you usually would, or you might have found that you still got hungry and you needed to break your meals up into lots of littler meals instead of big meals. What I need you to think about is if last week you really struggled, so you might have found that you weren't close to your 3 liters a day. You might have found that you weren't very close to your 8,000 to 10,000 steps a day. If that's the case, you get 2 options. You can either, as we progress through the program, slowly try to increase those metrics yourself by introducing drinks of water throughout the day or little walks and getting those step totals up. Or you can pause. You don't have to continue on the next week if you are not getting 90% accuracy on the week prior. We don't want to give you more stuff if you're already struggling with some of the things and concepts that we're running into. Some concepts you're going to find are very easy for you, and you'll find that others are a little bit more challenging. So it's worth spending more time on the stuff that's challenging you more. So let's look at our macronutrient of the week. We are going to look at proteins. So most people don't eat enough proteins. They're very, very important in our body, to the point that if I was to sever you at the spine and you were bedridden for the rest of your days, you would still need about 0.8 grams of protein per kilo that you weigh, just to turn over new cells inside your body. Now, some people can eat upwards of 2.2 grams per kilo, and some bodybuilders can have exceptionally large amounts per kilo that they weigh. But why do we need protein so much? Well, proteins don't only just build and fix and repair muscle mass, they also repair and fix most tissue. So your brain cells, your organ cells, the tissues, your ligaments, all these things are healed over time and grown from the presence of protein inside your body. So as we eat something, so let's say I eat a steak or some chicken, my body will break down that tissue into amino acids that then float inside of me. Okay? Our body takes those amino acids and builds them back up into whatever kind of tissue type I need. So if I need some more brain tissue type to help replace some damaged cells or to help grow and repair cells, I will break down the amino acids that are in me to allow me to have that growth. If I have an injury, let's say I've torn my bicep or I've hurt my leg, I will need more proteins because there's now repair that starts to happen. As well as repairing tissue, healing tissue, and strengthening tissue, we have things in our bodies called enzymes. Enzymes are little protein capsules that capture hormones as well as other things in our bodies that help us with cellular function. They are made of proteins and amino acids, and we need to be constantly replenishing them to help us with our hormonal releases and to help us with upregulating and downregulating how we respond to different chemicals and body functions happening within us at any one time. Amino acids and proteins are also responsible for some of your immune responses. So your B and your T cells that live within you that help you fight off pathogens are made up of enzymes, and they're made up of amino acids and proteins. To help you fight off sickness, we actually need proteins to help make those cells. Team, there are 3 types of amino acids you're going to find. We have non-essential amino acids, we have semi-essential amino acids, and we have essential amino acids. Now remember, amino acids is just what proteins are broken down to in their finest form, okay? A non-essential amino acid is something that we can generate ourselves. So if we weren't ingesting it or we didn't have access to it, our body's pretty good at making it. So we don't need to source it from anything external to us, anything outside of our body. Semi-essential amino acids are ones that we do need to source outside of our body. In cases of extreme conditions, we may eat away at our own muscle tissue to be able to make that amino acid, but we'd only ever do it in a position where we're at dire straits. So if you were in the desert and you had no food sources and your body started eating away at its excess fat, so there's excess muscles, it would do this to help us make semi-essential amino acids. Semi-essential amino acids can be generated by us, but only under extreme conditions. Essential amino acids are ones that we must source from outside of our body. We ourselves cannot make this type of amino acid. That means we might need to get it from protein sources that we have available to us. This is why it's important to make sure we're tracking how much protein we're getting in, because that will help us get our essential amino acids. Now, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, that's fine. We can still get our essential amino acids from things that aren't animal products, but you may have to look into some supplementation to get some of the key essential amino acids. So, proteins behave a little bit differently in the body. What I want you to think about is a water bottle with a hole in the bottom of it. So, as I go about my day, my water bottle slowly leaks out like this. So this represents the protein in us that's slowly leaving the body, okay? What I need to do is anytime that I ingest proteins, I top that bottle back up, okay? But as you can see, it just slowly leaks and dribbles out throughout the day. So if I overflow this bottle, the water will just piddle out the sides, it'll just fall out the sides, okay? So what we need to do with our protein intake is make sure to keep it constantly filling up, we trickle in our protein throughout the day. We don't have huge amounts in one go, nor do we let out not have much protein at all, because as our day goes, our bottle will get emptier and emptier and emptier and emptier. So again, think like a bottle with a hole in it. If we overflow it, the water will just come out the sides. If we don't eat any protein at all, it'll just trickle out of our body. We really want to be slowly introducing more and more water throughout the day, filling it up so that our bottle stays full. So the plan I want you to make is we're going to find a way to trickle our protein out throughout the day. You may need to do some meal prep. You may need to get yourself some nice clean and lean proteins to help have them slowly throughout the day. You might need to buy some protein supplements if you're having issues getting enough protein in. Now, I will be providing you the exact amount of protein I want you to be having each week in terms of how many palms you're having a day. I will send that through to you via email with all the other sheets that are going to go along with this week. Now you might ask, well Bryce, I don't really know what proteins I should be having. That's okay. You will also be getting a little cheat sheet of proteins that I'd suggest you have more of, things you'd have a little less of, and stuff that I would try to avoid if possible. But this is going to help you a lot with knowing which proteins might be the best for you. So a question I get quite often with protein is, do I have to have it straight after a workout? Well, as we've kind of discussed, protein leaks out of our body throughout the day, slowly dripping away. We don't store it very well, so it is something that we need to continuously top up. So as far as when we train, we do create potentially more muscle tearing and might encourage the body to grow. But if you've already got protein in your system, you might not need to flood it with any more because you'll end up just falling out of that bottle into the body. So it's up to you, but it might be suggested that if your protein levels are already high, you may not need to have any more. So team, these next 3 words are going to be some of the best tools that you're going to use in your nutritional journey. I use this statement like in my toolbox for nutrition because it comes around all the time and it is one of the more valuable things you're going to learn. And the phrase is good, better, and best. Whenever I'm making a nutritional decision, I determine what is my good choice, my better choice, and my best choice within that moment. All foods fall into these categories. So let's use an example of we're at the pub. Now I could get the best choice for me, which might be steak and salad, if I'm looking for weight loss. Okay. My better choice might be the palmy with some vegetables, and my good choice might be the double cheeseburger with chips. In that moment, I had an opportunity to make a decision, and I'm trying to make the best one I can in the situation. So sometimes we're in positions where we don't get to control our nutrition. We might be going on a road trip and we have to stop in McDonald's because there's no other option. However, if we use our good, better, best during that time, we can still make the best decision we can. Do I get the double mac and cheese with a Coke? Do I get the chicken burger with a Diet Coke? Or do I get the chicken wrap with a water? So even in a moment where I might not have had the best decision, the best options available to me, I could still make a good, better, best choice. We don't ever say foods are bad. Everything just needs context. Okay? If I was to eat a Mars bar, people would say that Mars bars aren't good for you. However, if you're an ultra marathon runner or you're a marathon runner and you're in such a calorie deficit that you really need to replace those calories quickly, a Mars bar is your best friend. You might know a diabetic who has to carry sugars on them because they have issues with insulin release. Now, for them, that Coke is a very, very good thing, or that lolly is a very, very good thing. There are no bad foods, it's just context. Sometimes Friday night pizza is so good for you socially, the nutritional benefits might not weigh up compared to how much joy you're having, okay? But that said, we always have a good, better, and best decisions to be made whenever we're presented with foods and whenever we're presented with situations. Another example I'm going to give you is at the office, where I might have access to fast food chains. I might have access to the local sandwich shop, or I could bring stuff from home where I know exactly what's in my meals. You're gonna find throughout this program that meal prep will make your life a lot easier, and it's also gonna be your best friend moving forward because you know exactly what's going into your body. So I'm gonna say it again because I love it so much. The good, better, best is one of the greatest tools that you're gonna have in your arsenal, and I still use this every single day, and clients who I have always say good, better, best helps them by far, one of the most of these tools and phrases I'm gonna give you in your arsenal. So team, this week you're gonna get a sheet called the 5 whys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna ask yourself, what is your goal? And then you're gonna ask yourself, well, why is that my goal? The idea here is every time you answer that question, we're gonna try to dig deeper. The more we can understand exactly why we want something, the easier it is to stay consistent and continue with the program even after the 12 weeks has elapsed because you have more of a sense of purpose. So your goal might be, I want to lose some weight. So I'll ask you why. First why. Why? Well, you know, I've let myself go over the years and I kind of want to start looking a little bit better. Well, why do you want to look better? Well, because right now I don't feel good without my shirt on. Okay, well, why don't you feel good? Well, I used to look a lot better and I want to look sexy for when people look at me. Okay, well, why do you want to look sexy? Why is that important to you? Well, it might be because looking naked is a value of theirs. So you keep digging, you keep asking why until we hit the bedrock of what we're trying to do. So if someone wants to lose weight, it might be as simple as because I really want to look good naked. But you might also have on the other side of the coin, as you dig deeper in yourself, you might find that, well, I don't want to be fat because I don't want to look like my friend, or I don't want to die young, or I don't want to leave my kids and family behind earlier than I need to. So this is something I want you to do for yourself because for some people, the 5 whys can get quite personal. For others, it's just I just want to look good naked, or I'd like to be bigger. These things, it's going to be very you specific, which is good. So when you do the 5 why sheet, I want you to just do it by yourself. And again, that isn't for anyone but yourself. There's another sheet called 5 things people say about you. If you're struggling with the 5 why sheet, you can use the what do people say about you sheet. We usually find it easier to have a bit more context in these kind of conversations. So when I think about why do I want the thing that I want, you sometimes could run into some hurdles that it might be a little bit tricky to kind of dissect. But when we're thinking about what are 5 things that people say about us, it usually jumps to mind quite quickly. So in the sheet, you'll see stuff like, what would I say about myself? You might say, I'm a hard worker. So you truly believe that in your soul, you are a hard worker. And that's good because you can apply that to your nutrition. If you're a hard worker and when you set your mind to something, you get it done, good. That's something you can apply to your nutrition. So you have you. What would you say about yourself? Then you have what would a friend say about you? So your friend might say, he's very funny or he's an asshole, whatever. If you happen to be an asshole, that means you could be stubborn. It's another way to look at stubborn, or it could be another way to look at comical. So lightheartedness might be something that you bring to nutrition, which you need to do. We are trying to keep it as playful as possible because it's a lifestyle change. It isn't a diet. Next, you might see, what would your family members say about you? What's something that your mum might say about you? She might say that you're very kind-hearted, you're very gentle, you're a very good person. That's awesome because it shows that you have a lot of love. There's love in you. And when we're looking at nutrition, we're doing it for ourselves, but we're also doing it for our family. A happier and healthier version of you will only be a good thing for everyone around you. Whether that's a sports goal, a muscle, a strength, or a weight goal, when you are feeling fulfilled, everyone will feel it with you. What would a work colleague say about you? So if a work colleague might say that you're very efficient, that's excellent because we can again apply it to nutrition. If you're efficient at work, becoming efficient in nutrition is very, very useful because we can start using that efficiency to get better at meal prepping, get better at our daily shopping, and get better at tracking the different metrics on our tick-off sheets. And finally, we always have to ask, what would an enemy say about us? So it's probably not going to be a very good thing. They might say that you're a wet. It doesn't really matter what they're going to say. If it's something negative, like let's say you're a loudmouth or you're very, very cocky and confident go hand in hand. Too much of one leads to another. So if I'm too confident, I can come across as cocky. But confidence is a really good thing. When you have confidence, it makes it easier to make decisions because you're confident that you're going to get them done. So being cocky isn't necessarily a bad thing to say, as long as you can find a way to spin it. So if someone says you're lazy, you can, particularly an enemy, you can turn that to try to be efficient. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm lazy, you can say, well, I'm trying to be as efficient as I can and use that positive attitude to then attack your nutrition with. The worst thing you can do is let the negativity pull you back. You always want to flip it and push you forward. It's a thing called growth mindset, and we will be addressing that in later weeks of the program. So it's okay if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, but right now think about those 5 things that your different people in your life might say about you, and think about how could that positively affect my nutrition and my decisions. Again, good, better, best, and thinking about these things. So let's have a look at the summary. We know now a little bit more about proteins. There's essential, non-essential, and semi-essential amino acids. They help us grow, repair. They build up all different types of tissues. They help us with our enzymes. We now know that proteins will trickle out of your body throughout the day, so it's important to continuously top up our proteins. You are going to get your protein metrics specifically for you. So your job now is you still need to get in your 2 servings, 2 servings, and 2 servings of vegetables, fats, and carbs, or your 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5 vegetables, fats, and carbs. But your protein levels are allowed to change to whatever you need based off your new metric. So what does that mean? If your metric now is 8 proteins instead of 6, so let's say you're having 3 meals a day and you were having 2, 2, 2, and 2. So you were having 6 servings of protein a day. If you have to have 8 servings, because you might be someone who's very high performing, then you need to find a way to put those extra 2 servings in your day wherever you can. They are no longer needing to be had together. The proteins can be had separately. However, your carbs, your fats, and your vegetables still need to be eaten in a bracket. So what most people will do is they'll just increase the protein servings in each of those little meals that you have. If you have less proteins than your 6 or your 4.5 for every 1.5 things that you have to have a day, you might need to find that you'll have less proteins throughout your day. Whatever it be, you're allowed to play with and adjust your proteins as you need. Stuff like supplements can come in handy because it's sheer protein and I can have a shake at any time throughout the day if I find that my levels are dropping. Some people like to have a shake in the afternoon or evening after their meal. So that way it's not overly filling, it's just helping to get their metrics up. Again, it's very, very important that you try to get your weekly dose every day. Keep track of it. Write it down. You're also going to have your 5 why sheet. You're going to ask yourself your goal and say, why do I want that goal? You will respond and then say, well, why do I want to do that? And you keep going down until you start hitting the circle where you can't figure out any more than it is. That might be quite a deep message for you, or it might just be, I just want to look good naked, or I just want to be better at my sport. It's okay what it is. Do that one by yourself because that isn't for anyone's insight but yourself. Finally, you're going to have the what would 5 people say about me? So we're going to start dissecting what you would think of yourself, what your friends think of you, what your family thinks of you, what your work thinks of you, and what an enemy would think of you, to help us understand what kind of nutritional person we're going to be. What's our motivation? What gets me up? What gets me moving? These are really big keys, and we're going to use those sheets to help us find that. Excellent team, well done. When we look at these macronutrients, there can be a lot of content, so feel free to pause the video as you need. Again, always try to tick off your sheets. We're always aiming for 90% consistency. Reach out to me if you have any questions and keep on keeping on. I will see you next week and have as much fun as you can.